We are live, Mr. President.
Good evening and welcome to the Providence School Board meeting. Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next on the agenda is the roll call. Mr. Kushner, if you could please call the roll.
Yes, sir. President Thomas.
Present.
Vice President Garcia. Vice President is absent. Secretary Dr. Santel.
Present.
Mr. Escobar.
Present.
Mr. Nunez.
Present.
Mr. Stevens.
Present.
Mr. Rohan Gabo.
Present.
Mr. Ibiemi. Mr. Ibiemi is absent. We have a quorum, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Kushner. Next on the agenda is superintendent's comment. Superintendent?
Thank you, everyone. As you may have noticed, I've always tried to start our meetings with the good work that's happening in Providence. Our educators put in hours for our students. It is important for us to acknowledge them and let them know that we see and appreciate them. There is and has been many good things happening in Providence that we can talk about. And some of these things that we're looking at that we can speak about is last week, the voters approved 2 bond questions that will give us the chance to invest hundreds of millions of dollars in our schools. We can get our students and educators out of 100-year-old buildings and into modern 21st century learning spaces. Last week, it was also the National School Psychologist Week. It was a great chance to say thank you to our school psychologists for their work to help our students learn and teachers teach. We even had several of our psychologists featured on Channel 10 and Channel 12 News for helping our students. And tomorrow is a very important day. Our annual school choice fair, where we have been sending out messages to families for the past couple of weeks because it is a great chance and an opportunity for the parents to see what schools have to offer. This choice fairs, the school choice fair, is for pre-K students. It's for 5th graders who are becoming 6th graders, and 8th graders who are becoming 9th graders. They'll have the opportunity to speak with administrators and teachers from those buildings. Those administrators and teachers will be explaining the activities, the curriculum, and many, many more exciting things that their schools have to offer. So this is an important opportunity for those parents who have children who are pre-K, 5th grade, and 8th grade to participate. That will be at PCTA from 6 to 8 p.m. and that's at 41 Freeman Street, which is right across the street. And I also would like to mention another item. We've had a letter that went out, nameless letter, unidentified. No one signed it, but it went out. I addressed my faculty, my executive cabinet, and I've always told them, every minute that we spend focused on gossip and rumors, that's time taken away from our students. I just wanted to be clear that I've been in Providence almost 3 decades. I've worked tirelessly to put the best possible work that I can do for my students. I put my students always before me. I put my faculty always before me. So I just want people to know that when we send out letters, rumors, it takes away from fabric that we are trying to develop and create in Providence. If we are to turn Providence around, we need to do it as a team. We cannot do this individually. We cannot be having individuals pulling from side to side, or we're not on the same track. Because at the end of the day, it's not about any of us who are adults. At the end of the day, who will suffer will be our children, our kids. So I ask that please, that I have an open door. Anyone wants to come speak to me, I have an open door. But when you choose to take conversations, individuals, and put it out in the public when we're having conversations, and those are rumors, it does nothing for our children. It doesn't move the work that we're doing. So please, let's stay focused on what's important. And that will always be our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. Next on the agenda is approval of the agenda. And before we take a motion to approve the agenda, I want to turn it over to Mr. Ruggiero to walk the board through an amendment that we need to make as it relates to the executive session for this evening. Mr. Ruggiero?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just a point of order for the board. The agenda that you currently see was amended outside of the 48-hour limitation provided for the OMA. So the agenda item that's scheduled to be heard in executive session was not within the 48-hour requirement, so cannot be heard this evening. So the board, the rest of the agenda reflects what was notified within the 48-hour requirement. So the comments and the agenda items have to remain confined to those items that are listed for a regular session this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Ruggiero. With that being said, is there a motion to approve the amended agenda?
Motion.
Motion's been made by Mr. Escobar, seconded, by Mr. Mahingabu, seconded by Dr. Santel. All those in favor,
Well,
signify by
just
saying
before we could do that, just to be clear as to what the amendment is, the amendment would be to strike from this agenda the notation for executive session
correct.
pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 4246-581.
Correct.
Okay.
We have a motion by Mr. Mahingabu, seconded by Dr. Santel. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next on the agenda, we have school board comments, and I'm going to begin board comments by talking about culture. As many of you already know, the school board received an anonymous letter. I found the letter to be concerning on a number of levels. I worry about accountability when letters are sent anonymously. I also worry about the root causes why it is only safe to do so anonymously. While it's hard to know the charge behind the letter, it's clear that we have a morale problem that goes far beyond the union versus central office narrative. I came to the school board for a number of reasons. One, to diversify the teacher workforce and increase teacher retention. Two, to reduce student absenteeism and out-of-school suspension. Three, to increase social and emotional supports for students and staff. Now I can go on with more reasons why I joined the school board. I'm worried about the culture in PPSD. And I believe that we are losing focus as to why we are all here in the first place. I want a school district where people feel free to share their opinions without fear of retaliation. A school district where people working here do not have to worry about attacks from unknown sources. A school district where culture supports kids and everyone feels like they have a voice. I would like for the school board to be that safe space for every voice to be heard. Now, there are some good things happening here at PPSD that I would like to highlight, such as Principal Scott Barr and Vice Principal Renee Walker recently were recognized by their peers around the country in Washington, D.C., as they were named Rhode Island Principal and Vice Principal of the Year. On behalf of the school board, I'd like to congratulate these two outstanding administrators for the work that they do on a daily basis. Additionally, I had the opportunity last month to join PPSD educators, Superintendent Montanez, and Commissioner Infante Green for the Legends of Literacy Gala, hosted by the Rotary Club of Providence. Each year, the Rotary Club hosts a fundraiser to support PPSD. This year's event focused on literacy. The event raised roughly $70,000 to support literacy initiatives in Providence Public Schools. The event also recognized the outstanding work of one of our educators at George J. West Elementary School. A third grade teacher by the name of Miss Bianca Medeiros received the Richard A. Kaplan Jr. Award for her commitment to our school community. Again, on behalf of the school board, I'd like to congratulate Ms. Medeiros and say thank you to all of our educators for the work that they do throughout the district. Lastly, I'd like to thank Rotary Club President, Mr. Steve Hugg, as well as the members of the Rotary Club for their generosity and their continued support to PPSD. I've asked the Rotary Club President to send over to us the videos that were played during the event to share here publicly, to share with school board members who did not have an opportunity to share. So if we could just queue up these two videos, I think it'd be really important for us to view this.
This intervention program, Reading Horizons, is what is going to give them that edge. At George J. West, we have approximately 40% of our students that fall into what we call the emergency range. So this program targets all of those students, but at different levels. So we'll find an entry point where students will enter the program and then adapt it from there.
So my students at the beginning take a little phonics inventory. It tells me what sounds they know and what sounds they still need help on. And I use that inventory that comes with our lovely program to help choose the lessons that will support their needs. So you guys are going to take your stars, right? You're going to sound it out in your head first. And when you know it, who knows what you're going to do? Adrian. Nice job. Whoa, I think it was Kiara.
Making sure an intervention program integrated the 5 years of reading, and Reading Horizons was just, it was just a perfect match for what we were looking for and what we believe will fit the needs of our students.
When we make sounds that make our throat to vibrate, we call it voice. Say it. It's very simple for a voice to sound. Like, what's that? What do you think this is going to represent? That straight line? The S. Oh, yeah. Voiceless sound. T-H. What are we looking at? T-H. Now, I want to look at T-H through a different lens. I want to use these words. Voice and voiceless. We know that's voice. Who can tell me what sound that TH is going to make? Vibrating. The vibrating one. Say it. Right?
Some students need additional support. They need extra time. They need extra frequency. They need additional materials that might not be just through the core program. So Reading Horizons is what we have here, thanks to the Rotary Club. We have this intervention program that will meet the needs of those students that may not be quite there with just the core program. And another positive thing about this program is that it has progress monitoring tools. Students are not making adequate progress, we make changes. So in this program, they do have tools that we use frequently.
As a daily progress monitoring check-in, the back of our instructional card has some skills that we have already practiced for students to review and build fluency with each day. One thing that I like about this program is that in each and every lesson, we get to do a little bit of practice with the phonics, spelling and writing of the words, and then apply it to text immediately. In a lot of other programs, the kids are just looking at the phonics and individual words, and they don't get to apply the skill they learn to a text immediately. So I like that each lesson has a corresponding book where they can practice the skill. So these are real nonfiction texts where the students can learn information about animals and different places in the world. And it really sets Reading Horizons apart from other intervention programs.
I say like actually when the baby hatches they need to take care of.
Exactly, the mother hen, that's our job. I want you to search for words that have the TH and the three things you already read. Raise your hand if you find a word with TH. The lessons have everything we need. It has a book that goes with the lesson. It has a card that has all the words the kids need to practice. And it has the directions on how to code the words, which is really helpful for the kids. We'll talk about what it means after. Keep going.
Real world vocabulary. Students need that. Children need to understand and make that connection between what goes on in the classroom and what happens outside of the classroom. And I think a perfect example would be that word dwell. Like we wouldn't typically teach that word.
Hens like to dwell with other hens. What other word might make sense in place of dwell? Live. That's what dwell means. And I like to live with other hens. Is the TH with voiced or voiceless? Voiceless. Voiceless. We're sorted under voiceless. I've already been a little messed up. I have another one.
Reading Horizons is an innovative program right now. I really don't know of many schools in Providence that are using it, or in the state actually. Love how that she followed the script, but she also brought her own teaching style into it, which this program allows us to do.
Thank you, Rotary Club.
I also love the fact that it covers the 5 years of reading. So a lot of intervention programs only focus on one part, where this integrates all of it. So you saw that students talked about vocabulary. They had direct instruction within the phonics area. They made sounds for particular letters for music awareness, and then she brought it back to the comp. This program kind of encompasses all of those 5 areas, which is very, very important for an intervention program.
I love reading.
I believe there was another
Should this genius
short
pocket chainsaw be
short
illegal?
video.
This
as
breakthrough
well, but I
invention
will,
combines all the power of a traditional chainsaw.
we'll make sure that we share this with school board members, but I just wanted to, I think it'd be nice to highlight. Do you want to play the second video? Sure. We're gonna visit from the Patriots attending
Decided
for
to
this
come
event.
here to read us his book.
Can I tell you a secret? When I was a kid, I was afraid of books. It's true, but I learned I had to overcome that challenge, just like the other thing that deficit that I said. Well, I'm extremely grateful that we were able to visit George J. West Elementary School. You saw their book up, so I know you're ready. Supported by Providence Rotary. When I say read, you say succeed. Read. Read. Hi, I'm Henley, and this is a story about finding my very favorite book. The message that I want to pass along is that, there are challenges, but from my experience, reading helps you overcome most challenges and gives you the greatest opportunity at becoming your best self. So I want to inspire kids to read.
What I liked about it about his story and how he solved his problem.
And that's the truth. Great job reading, everyone. Once I see the children smile, interact with the book, it lets me know we're serving our mission of hopefully inspiring kids to read.
It's good because of the meaning that to never give up. I love that I was up on the stage and I got to ask some questions and how I got the autograph because I was really happy. And I really want to tell open receiver. He told me to never give up when I wanted to be an open receiver.
And we have such an awesome book. So I want to say thank you for writing that book and sharing it with everyone. Have a great day. Thank you.
Say thank you, Mr. Mitchell. All right.
Thank you for sharing, and I will make sure that video is to board members as well. So that concludes my comments this evening, and I will open it up to board members for public comment.
I know we might have skipped the public comment.
I mean, I'm sorry, school board comment.
Yeah, but yeah, I just didn't want to interrupt during.
Charles, am I able to go back to after?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Wait, can we go to school board comment first?
Yeah,
since
so
we
we-
skipped it?
yeah, let's stay here at school board comments and then I will,
Just go to-
and then we'll circle back around. So, did you wanna, you have anything, all right, so are there any board members that did want to,
Yes.
provide comment? Ms. Garcia?
Good evening. Sorry, my apologies for arriving late. I don't know if y'all actually waited for me. I was away at a conference and rushed back as soon as I could. I want to start by formally and publicly announcing that I am stepping down from the Providence Public School Board. Not right now, but in a couple of months. Unfortunately, some of you probably already know this because the information was posted on Twitter without my knowledge or consent, but that is a symptom of all the reasons why this separation is necessary at this time. To be clear, I am not stepping down because I no longer care about the future of Providence Public Schools or because I have somehow accomplished everything I wanted to do or because I have nothing else to learn or give. On the contrary, I highly value my public school education and wanted to be a part of the solution that would usher in a new era for public education in Providence. As a woman, the only woman remaining on the board, a woman of color, an immigrant woman, with a demonstrated commitment to and understanding of this work, I am disheartened by the state of Providence Public Schools right now. In my almost 7 years with the board, we have worked alongside 5 superintendents. 5. The climate and culture under the current administration is the worst I have ever seen in the district or experienced in any work environment. The internal fractures within the board have not helped. I'm going to be clear about that because that is also on us. But the dysfunction in this building, as partially outlined in the anonymous letter we received on Monday, are making it impossible for the board to fulfill its duties or move any priority forward. It has become completely unsustainable for me, a single person with a job, full-time, with flexibility, has made it unsustainable for me to continue as a member of this board. So for those of you who were all about the hybrid school option, imagine a parent trying to serve on this board, a single parent, or a person who does not have a flexible schedule. I have lost countless hours of time and attention from my own professional, personal priorities. I'm losing sleep, and quite frankly, I'm tired of being gaslighted. I am a volunteer with nothing to gain personally and professionally from being here. I'm here to serve in the best interest of public schools, but the ever-evolving and persistent dysfunction prevents us from doing so. I don't understand why it has become so hard for people to do right by students and families. But I believe it started when our moral compass wavered on what the right thing is for kids. My proposed end date is January 31st to be able to support a transition between the mayors and new school board appointments. So school board members, members of PPSD, let's connect to talk about transition. In the meantime, while I'm still here, I offer the following recommendations to the board, district, and community Some are immediate and can be done within the next 2 months or so. Some will take much longer. Put children first. Prioritize every resource to review and revise every policy and procedure directly impacting students, like the grading policy, the student code of conduct, and others, and incorporate a parent's bill of rights and a student bill of rights with clear anti-racist and equity-centered language and position. Start treating staff like the valuable human capital they are. Review and revise the employee handbook and clearly define employee rights and protections, including but not limited to a whistleblower policy. I've heard that this is already in the works, but it's on my list. Conduct a thorough and independent audit of HR policies and procedures, practices, including but not limited to recruitment, retention, promotion, compensation, voluntary separation, disciplinary action, termination, that leads to a strong, efficient, diverse, equitable, transparent, anti-racist system that empowers staff to do their best for kids and not break their spirit. Take action, school board members, community members, in areas you can lift those who are moving mountains for our students and bring attention to issues or challenges that hold us back. We can do this by way of resolutions and by convening meetings. One resolution that has been on my mind for months and I have had no help in getting it through is to name a school building after Jorge Cardenas, who is a valuable member of community that we lost last year, I believe. He gave 20 plus years of service to Providence Public Schools by way of the Back to School Celebration organization. Introduce a resolution calling for PPSD, PTU contract negotiations to be made public and incorporate student, parent, and community partner representation with compensation. Stop asking our parents and our students and our community partners to come into these meetings for free. Revisit the resolution on the removal of school resource officers. We already introduced a resolution a couple of years ago. Revisit the resolution on the removal of school resource officers from our school buildings and revisit how restorative justice is practiced in our districts. And that's just the beginning. I implore you to explore and introduce additional resolutions that directly advocate for student quality of life and learning within and beyond the classroom. We have never talked about reducing the number, the classroom size here. We've never talked about the mental health crisis that's happening in our state. We've never talked about the housing crisis that's happening in our city. Call on our leaders and legislators, city council, the mayor, anybody and everybody who has an opinion about what's happening in our districts. Call on them to move their resources and influence to help our most vulnerable. Use this platform to engage and empower students and families. Invite them into these spaces and ask them what they want and need. Stop telling them what they want and need. Include them in solutions that are student-centered and not just include the students and families who are already involved. Make room for the voices that are more difficult to hear because they don't speak the language. They don't have the flexibility to join a 4-hour meeting on a Wednesday like this and other barriers. Through the remainder of this takeover and beyond, when the city regains control, whenever that happens, if our school community is not strong, any and all initiatives are going to fail. This is a long to-do list, and it requires free-flowing collaboration and communication and support from the district. Because again, we are volunteers. So we need staff that are equipped and empowered to directly support the school board with training, independence, and the ability to freely communicate with the board without conflicts of interest or without conflicts in integrity and direction that can result in disorganization and obstruction. At some point over the next 2 months, I will give my personal thanks to folks here privately, because I have witnessed there are good things happening as you can see, as you all saw in the video, there are good things happening in the district. There are good people doing good work. I have witnessed some of you go above and beyond, stretching yourself paper thin to serve our kids. And some of you are actually changing lives for the better. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. Are there additional comments from school board members? Mr. Mahingable?
Yeah. Last week, the Providence Journal, in their executive report regarding a venture program, they obtained a document of evidence that graduation inflation happened. We were correct the whole time. I still use the board to push, call, and support an independent investigation. This week, we received a letter stating allegation against the superintendent's senior advisor. The letter was sent anonymous because of fear of retaliation or being fired. I think that the senior advisor to the superintendent should resign immediately.
I'm gonna just caution members of the board to not address the job performance, character, and fitness of any employee who has not been notified that their job performance, character, and fitness could be discussed in the meeting as required under the Open Meetings Act.
Well, hold on just a second, Mr. Stevens. With that being said, Mr. Mahingable, is there anything else that you wanted to answer?
I'm not done yet.
Really quick though, if a statement is made public, Mr. Ruggiero, we could still say the position, but not the name legally. We can say the position of the individual, but not the name of the individual, and the name of the individual was in the report. Right? I mean, the anonymous letter that was sent.
What I'm saying is you can't discuss the performance, character, and fitness of someone who has not received the requisite statutory notice that their job performance, character, and fitness could be discussed during the course of the meeting.
So he's saying sort of a statement though, where he's discussing the letter that was sent. He wasn't discussing her job performance, saying she did a poor job or anything like that.
I'm just setting forward the cautionary tale for the board to not delve into those matters.
Thank you. I think that the senior advisor to the superintendent should resign immediately. I hope that in our next meeting, emergency meeting, I can talk more about this and bring more facts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mahingable. Are there any additional comments from school board members?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens.
Thank you. I just want to make clear that PBSD has no place for harassment and retaliation. I am very disappointed in the superintendent's public statement about the complaint letter against the senior advisor. The superintendent did not mention PBSD's responsibilities to take immediate protective action to ensure that the alleged harasser will not have the opportunity to engage in further harassment to the workplace retaliation. I'm requesting that RIDE's lawyers stop harassing members of the cabinet and focus on the alleged harasser. The concerns outlined in the complaint letter against the senior advisor did not fall on deaf ears because I'm committed to getting this turnaround work right with the right people in the right working environment. If that means leading the charge to get PBSD turned back to local control, then that's what I would do. 90% of PBSD students cannot read, write, or do math on grade level. So now it is not the time to play the blame game. It's time to bring everyone together. I want to make clear, and I want to see the commissioner, the PTU, students, families, school board, community organizations, and the business world coming together to change the culture of PBSD. We need to create a culture of excellence. What I read in this complaint would not get us there. It makes me question whether we have the right person leading the work. So please, 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 we need to look into this. Let's not play the blame game. Let's not try to have lawyers questioning people. No, let's try to get to the solution. So I'm hoping in the executive session next week or the special meeting that we're able to get to the bottom of it, because I'm not happy, and I'm not happy with a text message that I just received publicly, which everyone may see on Twitter, which is ridiculous. I also want to just mention, I see today, which I'm happy about, is we have a human resources presentation. We have a new chief of talent, which I'm looking forward to meeting on today, this afternoon. Well, I did get to meet him in the parking lot a couple of weeks. But I would say I would have preferred for us to go over the RideCast scores and data than an HR presentation right about now. So I'm hoping that come next meeting, we're able to go over that. Also, really quick, I know a couple months ago, we was talking about the space at 182 Third Avenue, using that space for district staff. I've had a chance to go there, and there's only 3 office spaces that they are currently using. And we had to sort of squeeze in other staff into sort of space that the students could have used and could have benefited from. So if we're not gonna use that space, please allow 360 and Juanita Sanchez to use that space. I'm asking all district leaders of the operations team, superintendent. And then lastly, I wanna thank Dr. Onye and Dr. Trita on the Leadership Equity Conference on today. I had the opportunity and privilege to be able to join them. When I tell you this is part of what you're saying, President Thomas, when you say there is good stuff happening, this is something that's good. I had a chance to go there on today. Students was happy. It was at the Marriott. They was excited. They was happy. They felt encouraged. They felt heard. That's what I'm talking about. So I would prefer, because I know there's a lot of funding, I'm on the finance committee, that we have sort of those same kind of conferences and leadership equity conferences, whatever conferences we may have more of that. Students had a good lunch. They felt as if they was heard, and they was able to sort of engage with people that they've never engaged with before. So please, that's what I'm talking about. That's building community right there and building morale. Let's stick to that. But I'm still disappointed with my first statement about the letter that I received. So I am going to go back to that and say that I really, truly hope that we get to the bottom of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Are there additional comments from school board members? Mr. Nunez, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Guys, I'm not gonna hear the repetition again, but I just wanted to make note that this is not about targeting individuals. It's not about my personal vendetta, any of that. Is when facts come together, the truth eventually does come out. And the fact that an anonymous letter had to be written because of retaliation is absolutely not okay. I can only imagine what staff have to go through to not face fear when coming into work every day if they see something or if they say something. Also being aware that there was a form that was signed in terms of things that can be said and cannot be said. The letter, I find it very troubling. It makes us as a district look very apart, not together. And yes, there's great things going on at PPSD. We always want to make sure we're a step ahead. But I feel with this, we're going backwards. And the only way for us to push the change, to do the turnaround work, is by addressing the issues right there. Not having to have these letters be written, not having to have people be afraid to speak up. Because no one's gonna wanna work here. No one's gonna wanna be here. So with that being said, I hope that the right things get done moving forward. And I myself joined the school board because I care about the students. I visited schools. I work an 8 to 5, but I'll make the time during the week when I have to go visit the schools, because it's important to know and understand what these students need and what the parents are expecting from the faculty and staff in their schools. And when I visited a school this year, I visited 3 schools this year, not this year, but prior. They told me great things that they want to do in their schools, great things that the students tell them, and little things that need to change. And especially with the infrastructure of our schools, that they know that the superintendent mentioned those things being passed, which is great. It's time to invest in their future. Place where students can feel comfortable a place where students can say, this is my second home. I want to go to school. I want to learn. And giving them that hands-on opportunity that a lot of other districts around the globe have and provide to their students. I look forward to continuing to do great things. I know that we all have work that we want to do, and it's about doing it together. And I hope, again, that the current issue that is happening right now does get addressed so that we can move forward and close that door and continue to do great things in PPSD. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nunez. Are there any additional comments from school board members? Okay, there. Dr. Santop, please.
Real quick. First of all, I want to thank Vice President Garcia for her comments and for her extensive and accurate to-do list for the rest of us on the board to be moving forward with. I don't know how much time I have left on the board, but I'll try and do what I can to move on many of these issues. And I think we are all, we've had various divisions and disagreements on the board. We're all grown-ups and reasonable people can disagree about a lot of different things. But, I do think we actually have an awful lot in common in terms of the way that we're trying to move here and feeling constantly frustrated by things that seem to be distractions. And we may occasionally ourselves be the source of the distraction. I have no doubt that's the case. I think moving to a partially elected school board is a distraction from the good work of trying to improve urban education. I think calling for public charterization of the system is a distraction from the goal of trying to improve urban public education. I think trying to silence or ignore dissenting voices from within instead of learning from them and creating avenues for them to feel heard is a distraction from the work. The work is the stuff that President Thomas showed us, and everyone in this room knows what that work is. There has to be room in this institution, in this building, for people to dissent and feel safe that they can do so. But by the same token, I know in my own very, very small experiences of leadership, I have lost when I have not listened to people who had critical things to say to what I was doing. And I have succeeded when I have listened to people saying those things. The more avenues of information both ways that I have coming up and down towards me and away from me, the better I am as a leader. I hate to quote a Marvel movie, but I will. It's not about me. It's not about you as much as I care for you and respect you. It isn't about you either. If people feel that they need to lay their careers on the line in a public way, I think it tells us something, right? I mean, I think we do need to dig into the facts to see what's what. I'm not going to run out ahead of rumors and anonymous letters and all that. But if I were in a similar circumstance, it would be a wake-up call for me that maybe I'm not being understood in the way that I thought I was being understood. Maybe I'm not being heard in the way that I think I'm being heard. And I can make that mistake. Anybody can make that mistake. In the end, there may also be people who are acting out of motives that we don't need. That could be true. I don't know the answer to that question. But I would encourage you, Mr. Superintendent, to see people who have dedicated their lives to doing this work dissenting and being critical as an opportunity. As an opportunity. That maybe there are things we're not seeing that we need to see. I don't know how else to express it other than that way. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Santal. Well said. Are there any additional comments from school board members? Okay, there being none, we're going to move back up to item number 6, which is public comment, right to be heard. It's my understanding that we have a number of folks signed up for public comment this evening, and I do want to remind those signed up that The time limit for public comment is 3 minutes to ensure that everybody has an equal amount of time to speak. I will turn it over to you, Mr. Kushner, to call our first person up for public comment.
Thank you, Mr. President. First speaker is Lisa Salisbury.
Ms. Salisbury present?
Okay, I guess not.
Okay, if Ms. Salisbury appears before the end of public comment, we will ask her to join us. Do you want to move on to the next?
Yes, sir. The next one is Mr. Ernest Fennell.
Mr. Fennell?
That's me.
Please, sir, if you want to come right up here to
This table here?
the table. Yes, sir.
Good evening, everybody.
You can have a seat if you prefer. Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
I'm gonna get you a microphone. And you can begin, sir, when you're ready. Thank you for
I'm gonna try to
Thank
do
you for
this
waiting.
as quick as possible, and that is 3 minutes. First of all, my name is Ernest Fennell. I'm from Providence, Rhode Island. I grew up in Providence, went to middle school, Roger Williams Middle School, Hope High School before going on to college. I've been coaching track and field for 31 years. I worked in residential, been a TA in a high school, worked as a behavior specialist and restorative specialist the last 11 years. I run my own track club where I have coaches who coach under me, and I was the interim athletic director at Central Falls High School, where I was in charge of several coaches. And I was the head coach for track and field at the same time. So that's a little bit of history of myself. I was asked to come to Central High School a year or two before I got there in 2018 by the current coach who's at Classical now. They knew all about me. I knew the administration. I knew the athletic director, and pretty much fast forward, I got the job. From the moment I stepped into the building, I had a contract I had to follow and delegate responsibilities. I got pushback from my assistant coaches. The new administration came in, and the new athletic director told me if I need to hold people accountable, that they were going to start an evaluation process in order to get those accountable, held accountable. Fortunately for me, unfortunately because I left, I had a baby, COVID time, so I took paternity leave in the winter. Came back in the spring, and got back. Still had some rebellion against the coaches, and then I had my evaluation. My evaluation from Mr. DiMuccio was, first thing I walked in the door, where's your keys? You're gonna be fired for the time coming late, which was an agreement I had with the last administration. I was never late. Then there was some accusations that weren't proven. I had to get a lawyer for that because I'm not in the union. The last issue, which was recent, was a parent complaint about her daughter not going to national, which me as a coach made that decision. And I had an administrator from that girl's school who supported my decision. And I have a lawyer who put together a whole bunch of evidence and witness statements and coaches who witnessed behavior of this girl, and the principal of that girl who was a witness, and even that wasn't enough. And then they said I was fired. I mean, there's a lot more to the story, but I'm trying to rush it in. And I all from the first time I had an issue with the new administration, I wanted to meet with the superintendent, but they told me I needed to speak to the head of principals, who wasn't a head of principals. And then when I had my emails and my evidence, they gave me my job back. But ever since then, I wanted to see the superintendent because I knew they were trying to push me out because the two assistants had applied for my job. Okay, so in a nutshell.
Okay. So here's what we're gonna do, Mr. Fennell, and I appreciate you waiting to share this with us. If you don't mind leaving your number and your contact information with Ms. Cooper, the woman who provided you with the microphone. Ms. Cooper will then pass your contact information along to the superintendent's office for them to follow up with you directly.
Okay.
Okay.
Just one more thing. My whole team, right now, started a petition, 41 kids and parents. They were gonna come here, I said, no, I'm going to speak to the board, let the board. So I think I'll follow up with the superintendent, because the kids will tell you, this shouldn't take one kid or one parent to get me out of here. You gotta speak to the kids, all of the kids, not just one kid.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Krishna, do we have anyone else that has signed up for public comment this evening?
No, sir, I had only those 2 requests.
Okay, very good. We will move on to school board committee updates. And the first update is for the finance committee. Dr. Ibiemi is unable to join us this evening. I did speak with him prior to the start of the school board meeting. He did not express any concerns with the contract that was viewed by the finance committee, which is the Danielson Group contract. It's my understanding that Mr. Stevens and Mr. Mahingabu were also present for the finance committee meeting. Mr. Mahingabu, is there anything else that you would like to add related to the contract before the board considers a vote?
No, the contract was.
Okay. All right, thank you. I will turn it over now to the policy committee co-chairs, Dr. Santow and Mr. Escobar, to provide any updates.
So a couple of quick things. We have a policy that is on the agenda for first read here that we'll be looking at in just a moment, which is the physical restraint policy. So the committee has been working on that policy with folks here at PPSD on for first read and hopefully on for second read. After that, we've tried to make the language of that policy as clear as we possibly can to parents and guardians, which to make the training of those who use physical restraint on students as clear to parents as possible. So that policy we looked at in our last meeting, and the other thing we did in the last meeting we were very excited about moving forward is that Dr. Onye joined us to talk about her work on racial equity and all the various ways in which that work intersects with so many mission-critical policies that we will be looking at, which Vice President Garcia outlined many of them in her comments a moment ago. Code of conduct policy, the MTSS policy, grading policy. These are all mission-critical policies, many of which, particularly the code of conduct policy, are in need of vast revision in order to be consistent with our belief in restorative justice. So we're looking forward to working with the equity team in the months to come.
It doesn't seem like Mr. Escobar has anything else to share. So we will move down to Health and Wellness Committee updates, and I will turn it over to Vice President Garcia.
Health and Wellness Committee met on October 26th. We had 3 presentations, one from Sodexo, our vendor that feeds our kids, one for Smart Clinics that has been providing some valuable support at our schools, especially those schools that may or may not have sufficient may or may not even have a nurse teacher. And also we discussed the PPSD health curriculum. So one thing I'll note about the Sodexo update is one of the things that we learned is that although Sodexo is a really valuable partner, they are responsive, receptive, they are engaged, they engage with students, they have a live social presence. one of the things that they expressed a frustration with was how to deliver services to our students at the schools. So apparently, as superintendent, you and I can talk about it more at a later time. But apparently during and post-COVID, the more critical times, Sodexo was able to deliver breakfast on a more regular basis across all grades. And now I believe they are only able to do so at the elementary school. So middle school and high school, those kids are not afforded the time for breakfast. And one really concerning thing that they told me or told us was that at Central High School, one of our biggest high schools, I believe with 1,500 students, their lunch periods were cut down from 3 to 2. So Sodexo staff have to be able to feed 700 kids at a time. I don't even know how many seats the cafeteria holds. But these are the conversations that we're having in committee, or that we can have in committee, and then bring those concerns forward to the district. I believe that Sandra Stewart was, she was there, she took notes. I'm assuming she took her notes back to cabinet. But given how everything has been going, I don't know if those notes have been misplaced or ignored. In addition, just so you all know, the Health and Wellness Committee is different from other committees. We do not vote on any action. Therefore, it is more of an inclusive community group. And we will continue with 3 working groups this year: nutrition and physical activity, healthy relationships, and social and emotional learning. All members of the committee have expressed an interest in helping revise the PPSD health curriculum, which is also up for review. And that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Vice President Garcia. The next on the agenda is a consent agenda, and I'm going to ask.
Mr. President, can I just ask a procedural question?
Sure.
And this may just be, I'm tired and I'm not remembering. When something is on for first read, does it go under action items, or is it properly located where it is on here now? Charlie, do we vote on first read, or is first read literally the committee, the board sees it and then we vote second read next meeting?
I think traditionally we haven't voted on first read. I think it's just a viewing and then we vote second read.
Okay, all right, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure, because we've had other policies in the past that we wanted to vote on and we get to vote on them because they weren't in the right place on the agenda. But the first read of restraint policy is on there as number 10. So I just want to make sure everyone on the board gets to read it so that when we meet next, we can vote it through.
Thank you for clarifying. Next, we have on the agenda the consent agenda, and I'm going to ask to take items 12 through 14 in one vote. Is there a motion to approve items 12 through 14?
Motion.
Motion been made by Mr. Mahingabu, seconded by Mr. Escobar. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Next on the agenda, now that we are not, we won't be going to executive session, but we do have a review of homeschool candidates. Do we have someone here from the district?
Yes, good evening. So we do have homeschool candidates who have met the requirements under Rhode Island general law and have also met the requirements for homeschooling based on our district policy. So we're submitting those for approval this evening.
Perfect. Is there a motion to approve the candidates for homeschool?
Motion.
Motion's been made by Mr. Stevens. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Mahingabu. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. We now have executive session as we discussed earlier, which brings us to our presentation for this evening. Report from Human Resources. I believe that'll be Mr. Scott, among others that will be joining us. I want to just preference for school board members before we dive into the material. this information came to board members. This morning, Mr. Scott and I had a conversation, and he was working steadfastly to get us this information. I appreciate that, Mr. Scott. We'll let you and your guest take it away.
Good evening, board members. As the President Thomas mentioned, my name is Zach Scott, and I'm the Deputy Superintendent of Operations. I'm excited to kick off the presentation, but then I'm even more excited to introduce you to our new Chief Talent Officer, Herman James, who's been on the district just for a few weeks, but comes with a wealth of knowledge, both as a teacher, school leader, and head of HR for a large district, urban district. So we're incredibly excited to have him on board and help share some of the work we've been doing in human resources, some of the areas we need to grow in and learn from, and what comes ahead. So we'll start by just, as you see from the agenda, anchoring ourselves in the turnaround action plan. World-class talent is one of the key pillars of our TAP, with some metrics that we look at on a daily and weekly basis to make sure we are meeting the goals of the turnaround action plan. We'll then do an overview of how the human resources department is laid out before trying to dive into a few areas of interest related to human resources. So if we scroll down to the following slide, what I'll just want to anchor us on is what was laid out in the turnaround action plan, which is kind of our North Star and is was built based on community feedback. And so it paints a picture and a vision for world-class talent that says that all Providence students will attend a school staffed by highly effective teachers and leaders who reflect the community's diversity and are singularly focused on student growth and achievement. And you'll see that the goals across these areas, and we'll highlight data from the different parts of the work in world-class talent in the coming slides. But you'll see some that are aligned to staffing and hiring. If you just go back up to the, thank you. Focus on having fully staffed classrooms, having a deep applicant pool, increasing teacher attendance and increasing teacher diversity, along with increasing the certification of our staff, ESL certification. So I know we've shared some of this with you before, but are excited to go more in depth on each of these areas. So with that, as we go and start with the overview of the organization structure, I'll turn it over to the district's new Chief Talent Officer, Herman James, and I'd ask him to share a little bit about himself before he dives into PPSD HR.
Welcome, Mr. James.
Thank you. School Board President Thomas, Vice President Garcia, other members of the school board, to our Superintendent Montanez, good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to certainly present to you this evening just a brief update of our human resources. But prior to that, I'm glad to be with you here at Providence Public School District. I spent 30 years in my career in the state of Maryland. Started as a teacher, school principal, and then moved into human resources at the school central office level and served as a director of human resources there, chief of human resources for one of the largest school systems in the nation, Prince George's County Public Schools in Maryland. And I'm happy to be here today to work with you and support the efforts in this turnaround school district. So I'd like to begin by stating that my vision as the Chief Talent Officer here for Providence Public School District is certainly to support the overall vision within the turnaround school district. The metric, such as all Providence students will attend a school staffed by highly effective teachers and leaders who reflect the community diversity and primarily focused on student growth and achievement. That is the vision that I will bring to this division of human resources here so that we can continue to improve our work to ensure that we have a teacher in every classroom at the beginning of the school year, and that our students are not faced with a substitute teacher starting at the beginning of the school year. That is the primary goal of my vision as the Chief Talent Officer here. I will need certainly the collaborative effort of everyone working together to ensure that we get there. We have a lot of work to do, and we can get there. I've been involved in a number of urban school districts prior to my work here, and I know that we can do it and we can get there. but it will certainly take the efforts of everyone working together to ensure that we do get there. We will continue to certainly develop that pipeline for our school district. We know there's a national shortage of teachers. We know that. That is certainly the fact across the nation. In every school district are faced right now with challenges to certainly fill vacancies and have effective teachers in our classrooms for all students. So we have to think out of the box. We have to look at ways, alternative ways that we can certainly identify qualified candidates to certainly have for our schools. So that will be a part of the vision. We will certainly enhance that recruitment effort. We will think of ways that we can certainly bring qualified candidates to Providence. We have to go beyond the local walls and the local entities to certainly identify that talent. We have to start looking outside of Rhode Island and looking elsewhere to certainly attract that talent to our school district. But we have to be sure that we have the supports necessary for those individuals when they arrive to Providence and to Rhode Island. That's critical. We must also build an HR team that certainly supports schools. HR is the hub for any organization, and it is certainly the hub for Providence School District. So we must ensure that our team is supporting our schools and supporting principals. That is the key. In order for our students to be successful and certainly meet student achievement, we must be sure that all offices, human resources, and any other entity within the organization support schools, because that is our primary focus, is to certainly ensure that we have student growth and achievement here in Providence School District. So that's a little bit about how I certainly would like to move forward with the Human Resources Department here in Providence School District. We still have a lot of work to do. We're still certainly identifying those areas that we need to certainly improve. There is an audit that is not yet finalized, and we'll get those results and certainly share those results with this body so that we can certainly, it will certainly inform our work and what we need to do to move this district forward. So I'd like to begin with our organizational chart. We can go to the next slide, please. Currently, our Department of Human Resources consists as the head chief talent officer, which is the visionary for the department. Then we have the bucket of recruitment and staffing, and certainly that department certainly takes care of the pipeline development, looking at posting and hiring, sourcing talent, onboarding and offboarding. We have evaluation, induction, and licensure, which deals with the professional growth and learning of our teachers and our employees. New teacher induction, ESL certification, evaluation, and licensure of all of our teachers. We have employee services and relations, certainly deals with grievances and discipline, workers' compensation, leaves, FMLA, and our absence management process is under the employee services and relations. And then we have our HR data, which deals with all of our data quality, position control, and employee records. So that is our model, our structure right now in human resources, which will certainly be reviewed over the next 90 days to certainly see exactly which direction we need to go to ensure that we have efficient and effective services to our schools, which is critical. Next slide, please, talks about our hiring timeline process. In any situation where we're hiring our teachers, in this case, speaking of teachers, we're talking about our recruitment piece, that talent sourcing, our career fairs, looking at the pipeline to certainly bring about diversity within our district. We also look at the hiring, the job posting, interviews, how our principals are conducting those interviews and selecting our candidates. Our pipeline development, as I indicated earlier. And then our onboarding. Once our teachers are onboarded or hired, we need to be sure and ensure that we certainly are providing them with support with our new teacher induction, with trainings, systemic trainings. That helps with the retention as well. because that's critical as well for our school district. And also looking at the site-specific orientation. What are our school principals doing at the schoolhouse level to ensure that all of our new teachers are getting what they need in order to be successful as they start their career with us or continue their career with us here in Providence School District. And then, of course, the support and development, looking at that professional growth model, licensure, guidance, making sure that those that we're bringing in on emergency certificates, that they're certainly moving forward to renew those certificates or converting to full certification, which is the key. We have to ensure that we have all of our teachers fully certified, meeting the guidelines and being in compliance with RIDE so that they can certainly continue with us as a teacher. So this is our roadmap. This is to ensure that we have met our target, which is to increase the percentage of fully staffed classrooms day one for our students. This is the process that we must follow. Of course, we have to take a look at each of those components to see where we are not meeting those targets and start doing some work around that so that we can ensure some improvement in those areas. As I indicated, we have a lot of work to do. Okay, we have some good things happening, but we still have a lot of work to do. So now I'm going to share with you in each of these buckets, recruitment, hiring and staffing. We're going to talk a little bit about where we are today, the progress to date. And then we're going to certainly look at upcoming activities. Where are we going? What are some things that we're going to do to certainly improve what we have to do for human resources? So the first bucket is recruitment. The good news is that we posted 300 teaching jobs plus, 300 plus teaching jobs on March 7th this past year, 2 months earlier than the year prior. That's great news. We need to do better, and we are going to do better. Because in order to get teachers early, we have to certainly advertise early and have those positions posted early so that we can certainly have those candidates to come through. But this year, we had 300 teaching jobs out there March 7th, 2 months earlier than last year. And it was successful. We were able to certainly bring in 596 external teacher applicants. 596, and you'll see in the next slide where we're able to hire, I think, 180 new teachers from that pool, which I think is certainly an improvement from the prior years and past years. Still work to be done, but still a great improvement from what we've done in the past. We rolled out a new early hiring and building a pilot program for our 1033 staff. That's our teacher assistants, et cetera. We started a referral bonus program. There were about 126 referrals since the program opened in March of last year or this year, 2022. 11 were eligible for being paid out for a bonus based on the program guidelines. And we have an additional 5 that are also eligible and will be paid out at the conclusion of the 90-day period. So that's good news for the beginning of a referral program. That's the initial program for this year. This year, we hope to certainly increase that. And as the word get out and we get that information out that here we have a referral bonus program, refer a friend, refer a colleague, refer someone to Providence Public School District, they stay with us and remain with us, we can certainly pay them a bonus for doing that referral. So that's a huge piece for us. We started a Campus Champions program to utilize and mobilize the district cheerleaders among us to attract new teachers. That is a huge tool to certainly use your very own who are in our schools and who are doing this work and who are championing Providence School District to certainly attract that talent to our district. We started our last year program with 4 people, and the group started by collaborating and looking at what projects they will participate in. This year, we're going to increase the number of hours to 100. And we also have 4 additional people who have signed up to be champions for our cause to certainly attract talent to our district. They will support promoted events such as interview workshops, grow your own programs. After our interviews, that we're conducting interviews, those champions are going to be there to champion on the good work that we're doing here in PPSD. They will also support posting flyers, handing out information, social media, etc. We attended 40 plus career fairs this past recruitment season. This year, we are certainly slated to increase that number because, as I indicated before, we have to move beyond the local, and we have to certainly go out into other states where there may be plenty of additional teachers that we can certainly consider. So, of course, our job fair career list has been enhanced, and we should certainly be looking at 60, 75 places that we're going to be visiting this winter and this spring to certainly identify talent for Providence School District. Outreach to over 535 partners, colleges, universities, nonprofits. We've done a lot of outreach via email, social media, LinkedIn, career services, mass hire, TV events, anything you can think of when it comes to attracting talent, that communication piece. ABC 6, Turn to 10, we've done veterans associations, and we're continuing to increase that list because we need to be sure we're out there, that folks know who we are. We also hosted career events that certainly identified for schools where we knew we had the need. And we did specific career fairs to certainly support those schools and those principals. Those are the schools that had the highest number of vacancies. We did that, started this past summer and into the fall. We had a total of 413 attendees across all of the fairs. Average 40 people per fair. And 170 hires. So that's remarkable. That additional attention and intentional work to certainly ensure that we get those schools that have the highest number of vacancies filled, that's remarkable. And we will continue to identify those high need schools and do some prioritization in looking at how we staff those schools and how we look at recruitment efforts to ensure that those schools are staffed. I think I am ready for the next slide. Next slide talks about our update on staffing and hiring. As I indicated, we hired 179 new teachers this year. If you look at the previous years, look at just last year, we certainly hired 50% more new teachers this year than last year. That is to be applauded because in this environment, in this national shortage of teachers, that is certainly remarkable. Now, it's not the best. We can do better, but it's certainly something to celebrate. We secured 16 external qualified hires prior to March 1st. Those were advanced contract candidates that we brought on board. 16 is not a high number, but with this district just starting the advanced contract process, I think 16 was certainly a number to celebrate. Now, we're starting our first advanced contract event on this coming December 1st. So we're starting early than what we did last year. So we should see that number increase significantly this year with advanced contract candidates. And if we're going to certainly expand our career job fairs, we will see additional advanced contracts coming into our district. What we would like to do is have all of those advanced contract candidates to come and meet our superintendent, meet our school board members, and certainly do a red carpet celebration where we can certainly introduce them to the Providence School District. It's good for them to see what our district certainly will provide for them here. I think that would be great if we can have that event and certainly celebrate. In one of my former school districts, we did that and it certainly worked well. And we were able to hire those advanced contracts right on the spot. And we did a one-stop shop kind of thing where we certainly invited them in. They met the superintendent, met school board members, met principals, and they signed their contracts and they went through that onboarding process right then and there. And we were able to welcome them to our school district. I think that's key to advanced contract candidates because they're still shopping. And because they're still shopping, we have to certainly bring them to us and embrace them and certainly show them, hey, this is who we are and this is what we have to offer. And we welcome you to our district and rolling out that red carpet for them so that they know that you have the support here and this is a great place for you to begin your career. So that is something that's part of our plan this upcoming year for our advanced contract candidates. We offered incentives to newly hired staff members last year for hard to fill areas, up to $13,000 on top of their base salary, which was also huge for us this year. Loan forgiveness for new educators of color. We're looking to do that diversity piece. Got to make sure that we diverse our workforce. So that loan forgiveness for new educators, we had 25 that we certainly could provide for our new educators. We extended the deadline and now we have 30 applicants, and 25 of the 30 are eligible. So all 25 of those slots for the loan forgiveness program are taken for this year. So as we continue to increase the diversity in our district, we may need to look at how we can increase the number of slots for that loan forgiveness, because certainly it worked this year. And we see that as certainly a plus to certainly support.
Can I interject on just this loan forgiveness piece? I saw that there could be a challenge to the program. I don't know if you can provide any additional where that's standing or
Yeah, we just saw that too. We're not planning to change it, but I mean, we'll see if it takes a bit, the lawyers can fight it out, but we're not changing it.
Okay, yeah.
And I think and others may know about it, what you're referring to, the legal challenge against someone filed a discriminatory, we're not worried about it.
Okay, just wanted to check on a big fan of the program, so.
We appreciate your support. Okay, and then our upcoming activities on the staffing and hiring, we're going to be doing principal hub expansion, which is to include resources for our principals. We have to certainly ensure that our principals are HR managers in their schools. And certainly to do that is to make sure that they have the resources that they need in order to make those decisions at the school-based level. So we're looking to certainly expand that and give our principals a little more autonomy in certainly looking at how to move that work forward within their schools. And you'll see that workflow on the next slide as far as the onboarding process is concerned. Our school-specific onboarding trackers, our principals and hiring managers can now track the hiring process. So we're so excited about that they're able to see exactly what's happening with their candidates as those candidates apply and as we identify those candidates as qualified for the positions, those principals can certainly now track that. Staffing meetings with principals to prepare for next year's hiring. I think that's huge. It's critical to certainly get at the table with our principals and know exactly what their needs are for next year. Ensuring that we forecast what our needs are for the district by having those meetings with each of our principals and know what the needs are for each of those schools. Next slide. Next slide, you will see the onboarding workflow. Yep. Onboarding workflow is which provides a clear, specific process in place for all of our school-based principals to certainly follow. Once they have submitted a request to hire someone, this is the flow. And this flow should take no more than 2 weeks to get that teacher on board. And if we're going to do that advanced contract, we will do that advanced contract invitation reception, then we wouldn't have that 2 weeks. It will be done immediately within that one day. And that's the goal, to certainly get as many of those candidates hired so that they don't have to go through this workflow process. Okay, I think the next slide, I'm going to bring up one of my direct reports, Jen Burrow, who's going to certainly lead us in giving us an update on the diversity and pipeline. Jen?
Ms. Burrow, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. As we've been working with diversifying our hiring and also building out pipelines, because we know that the local colleges, the amount of students we see coming out in the education field are reduced. We have to be more creative in how we're doing this. So we've partnered with a number of agencies to support TAs and teachers and leaders in continuing their growth. We do have listed some of the universities that we've partnered with. We've also partnered with Youth Build and some other agencies that are not listed. We have been working with Generation Teach for a few years. It's a national teaching fellowship program that serves our middle school students every summer. And Generation Teach develops 36 to 42 high school and college students interested in teaching, who then turn and teach our students in the summer in content related to STEM. This is a great pipeline for us because historically 75% of the teaching fellows go into teaching right after the program finishes, and the pool of fellows is also an extremely diverse pool of candidates, with 70% identifying as educators of color. Every summer, we are able to attend an event called Teach Local through Generation Teach, and that event that they host has enabled us to connect with individuals graduating from teacher prep programs or with math and science degrees, which, as we know, is one of our very high need, two of our very high need fields. In an effort to support teachers with passing their praxis exam, we have made test prep vouchers available so that, and they are available for the majority of the exams that are out there. We currently have a PO that is open for 300 vouchers that we can use for our educators of color and our educators on an emergency certificate to take the practice exam, and that helps them to not have to financially put the money forward right as they start to do those exams. We also partnered in submitting a federal grant proposal with the Hawkins Centers for Excellence. That grant, should we be awarded, will help us support two very large initiatives: creation of a Bachelor's of Professional Studies in Education program, which will target paraprofessionals in need of a bachelor's completion pathway. And it will also help to redesign a post-baccalaureate certification pathway that targets paraprofessional teachers or emergency certified and our substitute teachers as well. We also did work this year around student teacher and clinical supervisor, the mentor teachers. We revamped that process. We did have a process in place, but based on the feedback that we received, we found that the assignment of student teachers was not being done equitably across the district. And so we created a process that would revamp the way that we're doing this. We established an official application process for both the student teacher and the clinical supervisor. And in doing so, we'll be able to ensure that the student teachers have a desirable experience and that the clinical supervisors are clear in their expectations in their roles as a mentor teacher. Ultimately, students are the ones that are impacted by having student teachers in the classroom, and we want to make sure that that is that experience for our students will result in a positive growth experience. We are also working in collaboration with colleagues at the local colleges, and our teaching and learning division is collaborating with us as well to create mandatory professional development for our clinical supervisors to ensure that instruction does not gap for our students and that our clinical supervisors are appropriately prepared to help the student teachers grow in their experience. Some of the upcoming activities that we have in place in this area are the Rhode Island School for Progressive Education. There is an accelerated teacher certification program that we're working on with them. Some of our TAs already have bachelor's degrees, but are in need of alternate pathways into the field of education, and this program will help them to get there. It will also help our TAs that are involved in that area to be able to earn a master's degree while they are doing their work with WISP. We have just finalized the MOU, and the first cohort is going to begin this summer. We will be hosting a new initiative called PPSD Empower. It is in collaboration with our Equity and Belonging Office, as well as the Equity Institute. This is designed to bring educators of color together, to connect, and to foster professional development. Dr. Onye and her team will be bringing in different speakers for the events, and this will also serve as an opportunity to hear about what the teachers' needs are so that we can grow as a district and be able to better support them and retain our staff. It is our hope to have this initiative kicked off this coming February. Our teacher pipeline from high school to college is a collaborative venture that we have in place between the Career and Technical Education Office in the district and our Providence Teachers Union. They're sharing the cost of up to $5,000 for students to apply to their college expenses towards becoming an educator. And the district has also committed to paying a $1,000 sign-on bonus for all PPSD alumni. We are also working in collaboration with Teach for America, Rhode Island College, RIDE, and CCRI to develop an alternative program that would start during the student's junior year of high school. This work will be finalized over the next few months with a plan to roll it out before the end of the school year. And we are applying to become our own teacher assistant accreditation program. We anticipate submitting our application in December. We are developing that curriculum in conjunction with our Office for Special Populations. And this will allow us to help our TAs to be trained appropriately for our population of students so that we can make sure that students are receiving all of the services that they need. Now, I wanted to call your attention to the two graphs that are on the slide here. The top one is labeled as new teacher hires between August and September. The reason it is labeled that way is because when we hire our new staff over the summer, they're set with a start date of August 1st. And we set that start date as August 1st as opposed to the official first day of school because we want our educators to have the opportunity to be able to attend professional development throughout the summer. The bottom graph there is showing you our percentage of new teacher hires who identify as educators of color. We did see a little bit of a dip this year, but we're really hopeful that with all of these initiatives that we have in place, we're going to see it bump right back up. So for our retention, we did a lot of talk about recruiting and hiring, but it's just as important that we hold on to the teachers that we do have here and have consistency for our students. So what we saw in our data is that our exits from the classroom among early career teachers, so our teachers in first, second, and third year, it has actually decreased. Over the last 2 years, turnover among this group has decreased from 32% to 24%. Our retention rate continues to be relatively higher than the national estimates as well. As we speak to new teachers, we identified that we were missing an enriching preparation program for our new teachers. So this past August, we hosted a 9-day summer teacher academy with TNTP and district personnel. We covered everything from logistics to curriculum introduction, to supporting multilingual and exceptional students in the classroom. And we spent a lot of work around establishing culturally responsive classrooms. While this was not a mandatory professional development series yet, we still had 90 to 115 teachers in attendance each day. We also have a new teacher induction program that is we're running a monthly professional development series. It builds upon the work that we did in the summer, so we can make sure that those themes continue to be revisited and implemented with fidelity throughout the year. And our goal is to have teachers have the tools that they need so that they can feel successful as they are in the classroom. We are also in our second year of our new teacher ambassador program. Almost all of the schools have at least one teacher serving in that capacity. And this is someone that the new teachers can reach out to as a non-evaluative staff member that they're able to connect with, to ask the questions, seek guidance, and to just receive support. The ambassador helps the teacher to acclimate the school and even to just the teaching career when that is necessary. The ambassadors work with me in a monthly basis as well. We meet, we do professional development, where we're working on mentoring skills, and we're brainstorming ways to make the experience continually better for our new educators as they enter with us. There has also been training that has taken place on stay conversations between principals and teachers. These stay conversations can be a very powerful way to connect personally with staff, to understand their role and through personal experiences, as well as how to motivate the individual staff members so that they have a more positive experience here with us. We also continue to conduct the exit interviews and exit surveys, and then we analyze that data to make sure that we are making retention efforts that are aligned with what we are hearing and learning from these experiences. Now, coming up, we have a few initiatives on the horizon, establishing a retention committee and the creation of a PPSD retention plan. So Mr. James will provide some more information for you around these two important initiatives.
So you heard we have a lot of great things happening, retention strategies in this district. But do we have a systemic retention plan? Retention is not just an HR function and role. It is not the role of just the principal, the school-based principal, but it's everyone's responsibility and role to help retain our teachers. And I think that's the mindset that we have to change, is that retention should certainly be a systemic approach. So in my observation, since I've been here for 3 weeks, we need a systemic retention plan where all voices are heard and that we have some strategies that we can certainly follow as a school district as to how we help to retain our employees here in this district. So our plan this year is certainly to establish a retention committee where we certainly would like to have members of the school board as a part of that committee and also other stakeholder groups so that we can certainly start to think about our employees and how we can certainly identify strategies to retain them. The deliverable from that retention committee will be the retention plan. As I indicated, we have a number of good things happening and a lot of things are being done in silos. But how can we certainly make a comprehensive retention plan that everyone has input and buy-in and that everyone feels that they have the responsibility and accountability to ensure that we have retention of our employees within this district. So we'll be calling on you guys, on the board members, to certainly help us with this effort. Because although we may be above the national average as far as retention is concerned, we have to continue to do the work, the strategy work around retaining, because this national shortage is not going away anytime soon. And we do not want to lose our irreplaceables, our highly effective teachers and employees within the district.
Thank you. We are also excited to be involved in two programs with Latinos for Education mentorship program. One of the programs takes place in the summer where teachers engage with national mentors, and the second is a 9-month program for aspiring Latino leaders. Through these programs, leaders engage with their cohort to learn how to lead culturally responsive schools with coaching from a mentor. And finally, as I mentioned in the previous slide, we are having the monthly Empower meetings, and we anticipate that those are going to launch in February. And licensure support. So one of our top goals is to increase the percentage of teachers holding and using their ESL bilingual dual language certification. In school year 18-19, we only had 17% of our teachers holding and using this certificate. Through our ESL reimbursement program that was rolled out in March of 2020, we have increased the number of teachers holding and using their ESL by dual language certification. In fact, in the school year 21-22, our goal was to have 25% of our teachers holding and using these certificates, but we exceeded that by quite a bit by having 36% of our teachers holding and using their certificate. So while the graph looks like we've leveled out a little bit this year, we continue to have teachers engage in their coursework towards their certification and as part of this reimbursement program, and we're confident that we're going to see a jump in the numbers as we roll into the 23-24 school year. Through this ESL certification program, we've been able to support over 300 teachers with their required coursework for the ESL bilingual dual language certificate. The reimbursement program enables us to provide teachers with up to $8,000 in reimbursement of expenses that are associated with pursuing their ESL or bilingual dual language certificate. We've also offered vouchers to teachers so that they can receive praxis test prep support. PPSD holds almost half of all of the emergency certificates that are issued by the Department of Education. And in order to ensure that our teachers are able to renew their certificates annually, we offer weekly meetings, we offer support sessions, and we now have a dedicated certification team to support teachers with that. The first two cohorts that were part of our ESL reimbursement group were reserved for teachers who were in classrooms that the district needed to convert to ESL required classrooms. The third cohort was open to all educators interested in pursuing their ESL certifications, and we saw teachers step up and take that opportunity. Upcoming, we will have certification-specific office hours to provide a more individualized support experience for our teachers who will need to be renewing their certificate. And we will soon begin to be doing our checkpoints on the deadlines, communications, so that we can ensure that there is no gap in certification as they roll from this year into the next.
Okay. I think we've come to the end. We would like to thank you all so much for giving us the opportunity to present an update from Human Resources. And we'd like to just leave you with this quote. Every child deserves a champion, an adult who will never give up on them, who understands the power of connection and insists that they become the best that they can possibly be. That's why we're here for children. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. James, Ms. Burrow, and Mr. Scott. I have a couple of questions for the three of you, but I'll open it up to my colleagues on the board to jump in and see Mr. Escobar ask some questions, and anyone else who has questions. So we'll go Mr. Escobar, we'll go Vice President Garcia, and if there's anyone else who would like to jump in, we can do so. Mr. Escobar.
Yeah, thank you for your time. For the diversity of education workforce, would be interested in any recommendations you would have in terms of what the school board can be an advocate of, and what potential advocacy we could have at the State House. I heard you mention wish we had more seats for student loan forgiveness program, and sort of targeting diversity. I think especially after the Biden program got stalled within the courts, I think there could be more interest in that. But we've talked as a board, how can we have an impact in the General Assembly? There's a There's a study commission on the diversity of education workforce in the state right now. And I think this is something that gets brought up and talked about, and not only in Providence, but in a lot of the core cities. So we'll just be interested in what are things that the school board can advocate for, whether it's in city funding, appropriations, or in the state legislature. And if it's possible to have some sort of recommendations to the board, by January, I think that would be great in terms of how can we move the needle and make that more public. So that was my big takeaway in terms of how we can be a partner in this work. It seems like, especially with new hires, that there's an increase there, and you're new, and I know you'll get other questions about culture and everything like that. But I just want to highlight that and sort of lend support there.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. We will definitely be calling upon you, someone in this body, to certainly support our work. One of the areas that I'm looking to certainly is an alternative certification program for the state, to look at those hard to fill areas such as Spanish and special ed and mathematics and science. How can we get the state to support our work with having the funding to look at those graduates who graduate with a biology degree or a chemistry degree, but they don't have the education piece? How can we get them to do an alternative certification program that the state will fund, okay? And have those individuals to join our school district on an emergency certification through an alternative certification program where they will, one of the colleges or universities that just could certainly partner with us so that they can get the pedagogy piece of it, the educational piece of it. That's something that I'm looking to do, the Grow Your Own program. That's another piece that we certainly need to get some buy-in and maybe get some legislature help with funding, et cetera. So there are some initiatives that I can certainly send your way for your support.
And yeah, I would just add, the easy one is just to continue to be supporters and cheerleaders for the work that's happening and bring people to Providence, because as much as we try to do an outreach and say all the wonderful things, share the incentives that we have, we often find, even as people are being hired, they say, oh, I didn't know that. And so we want to make sure we're tapping into everyone we can to get the word out. And then the other one that is not as easy is kind of cracking the code on the Grow Your Own work. We are trying to do that in partnership with the local 1033, our teacher assistant union, and trying to find it, because what might be a barrier for one person from becoming a teacher, a TA to a teacher, is different for another person. But how we provide holistic and comprehensive supports beyond just here's money for tuition, but some of it's a time issue. Many of our teacher systems are working multiple jobs. So how do you support ongoing education, knowing that needs to be an investment that's not kind of a 1 year, here you go, but like this is something that we got to commit to for 5 or 6 years, because oftentimes it's people moving from an associate's to a bachelor's to getting a teacher certification. So we are trying to, as you saw, we have a lot of partnerships, and now is trying to make sure we're investing in those that we feel like are yielding results. But to the extent the legislature can help systematize that, provide funding for that to me is super important, just because, as was stated, like, unfortunately, the teacher shortage nationally does not feel like it's going away anytime soon, and that means increasing the talent pool that is out there, and people that are interested in willing to be teachers.
And that's all great to hear. I mean, the state has surplus. Not every year the state announces it has surplus. There's an opportunity here to take advantage of that, especially on this issue on diversity of education workforce. Another thing I'd like to highlight, and I said in the past, I think the Wave Maker program, that is already a student loan forgiveness program that's already specifically for STEM individuals. I'm not 100% sure in terms of like educators in the STEM field if they can apply for that. Memory's not serving me right at 8:30, but I think that's an opportunity to expand that in terms of future student loan forgiveness and recruitment to Providence as well.
Mr. Escobar, thank you. And Mr. James, I would strongly encourage you to connect with Mr. Escobar, as he is a good person to have in your corner down at the State House to begin to navigate through, some of the red tape.
Absolutely.
Turn over to, Vice President Garcia for some, questions, and anyone else who wanted to jump in. Vice President?
Welcome, Mr. James.
Thank you.
Another James. I'm assuming this is my invitation to be a part of this committee.
Is that the retention committee?
Excuse me?
No, that's.
Which committee?
This is the FACE Hiring Committee,
Oh,
Chief of FACE Hiring Committee. My name's on it, so I'm assuming this is an invitation.
Absolutely.
All right, with that said, this is a very glossy, nice presentation. Thank you. And I know you've only been here for 3 weeks, and I wish you the best of luck. And I also wish that you are empowered to do your job as you see fit. So with that said, I'm going to keep I have a long list of different notes from previous concerns that I've had. Like I told Mr. Scott before, I wish I had had this presentation earlier so that I could actually have the opportunity to review and to mark up the presentation materials with my questions. But for now, I'm going to keep it to 3 things. One is that the workflow that is on page 8, the onboarding workflow. We need a workflow for actual hiring. And maybe it's something you already have, but it definitely needs to exist and be public so that people understand what happens when they click on careers and apply. And the workflow should include a timeline. A position that is posted and is there for more than 30 days, candidates will begin to think that it's either been filled or that there's a problem with the organization, and therefore they're going to avoid applying past 30 days. As an applicant myself and as a user of these things and someone who advises in this type of thing to others, that's just a reality. And so we need, as an organization, to be able to build systems where we are responding to applicants within 30 days, thank you, or no thank you, at the very least. And then there needs to be a workflow for hiring managers. If that's a principal, an assistant principal, someone here at PPSD, whoever is in charge of hiring someone should be able to fully understand what that means. The do's and the don'ts, the legalities, etc. For an equitable process, transparent process with steps and deliverables. Lots of workflows, and I can send you an email because I have them all written out already. One request is to take a look at TA pay, teacher assistant pay. The last time we saw the budget, TA pay is like not competitive. People will make more working for Target. And we need them. And those are viable career paths for our parents, for students, for folks in the community. We're talking about diversity, TAs. And then the third question, and unfortunately they already left, but how are you thinking, because you just got here and you don't have to answer now anyway. You don't have to answer now publicly, but at some point, how are you thinking that you're going to collaborate with the PTU on teacher recruitment and retention? Because at the end of the day, they should be serving as a partner. And I don't believe that is the case.
I'll just add by saying, on that, I believe it's slide 9. It outlines, all of the connections and relationships that the district has built with colleges, with, community-based organizations, but it does not, and I thought it was very glaring, it does not include the union. And then you get down to the teacher pipeline from high school to college certification, and you indicated that the union is involved in that process, but the union is not involved in some of the other initiatives that you have going on. And I'm not exactly sure what the barriers are, but to Ms. Garcia's point, I think having that workflow hand in hand with the union would be only beneficial for the district. And I think the union would find it beneficial for them as well. I wanted to just, unless Ms. Garcia, you got some additional questions, I wanted to go back to slide number 4, Mr. James. I too would like to welcome you to PPSD. You are coming into a department that I think we all here at the district want to see thrive. And I look forward to working alongside you and hear more about the good work that you're going to do. When I take a look at slide 4 here, and you give us the organizational structure, when I look at the buckets underneath the chief talent officer, for each of the buckets, currently, are each of these buckets fully staffed? And if they're not, exactly what are the staffing levels for each of those buckets to ensure that we can support the district adequately? You may not have the answer to that now, I know you just arrived, but I'm curious to know in each of those buckets where we are now and where you would like to see us move so we can support the district effectively.
Absolutely, we can provide that for you. I think currently I have about 4 vacancies within the entire division of human resources.
Okay, do you have an idea of where those vacancies lie?
There are about 3 that are in the recruitment and staffing.
Okay.
And 1 is certainly an executive assistant that supports the chief talent officer.
And in your experience, I know you want to jump in this, Scott, in your experience, you've served and you've worked in a lot of school districts, and when you look at the structure and you look at the staffing for each of the buckets, does it support a district of our size, or do we need to look at this, either restructure it or add staffing so we can adequately support the district?
So that's the work I'm doing right now, President Thomas. Certainly taking a look at that and certainly making some recommendations. So I'll be able to provide further information regarding that.
Sounds good. Mr. Scott?
If I may jump into, over the past year, we have added positions, particularly around recruitment and staffing. So a lot of our recruitment historically had been passive. So that as people came to us, and we have added talent sourcers who are actually proactively going out and trying to get people who have not yet applied to become applicants. And so as we've expanded that, we do have a few vacancies, but that was in an attempt to know, and I think we saw some of the results in our hiring numbers. And similarly, as Ms. Morrow mentioned around licensure, we know as we increase the number of staff that we're bringing in, particularly if you're on an emergency certification or we're trying to support you from a teacher assistant or substitute to become a full-time teacher, we need to make sure we have the adequate support to support those individuals getting their license.
Okay, sounds good. If we could go to, let's have a few more questions. We could go to slide 6. You mentioned in the presentation that we started our recruitment process 2 months earlier, but it seems like we could do better. And so in your estimation, how early should we begin this process? Is this an all year round thing where we just don't start?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We should have started in August, all right? And that's the cycle. Once we start a new school year, we should certainly be building that pipeline to fill for the next school year. So August, September, we should have positions out there posted so that we can start building that pool.
Gotcha. Okay, and I would imagine that the strategy would be to move in that direction.
Absolutely.
Mr. James. Okay, I was looking at the number here, 596 of external teacher applicants. And you mentioned we hired 179 of that 596. So roughly about 400 of these applicants did not begin with the district. What did we learn from those 400 plus candidates that didn't start with us that we can improve upon to ensure that we have all 500 folks who apply, or as close to 500 as possible,
join and stay with PPSD. And that may not be just an answer for you, I know.
Yeah, and
Mr.
that's
Scott and Mr.
prior to my time, but still, I think the timing, I think that's key. I talked a little bit earlier about ensuring that we have that advanced contract reception. I think that's key to certainly getting these folks in because they are shopping everywhere. So we have this applicant pool. We're not tapping into that pool to get them where they need to go early on. We will lose them, okay? But I'll have Zach or Jen to share a little bit more about what could have been some reasons.
Yeah, what I would add is, just to double down on Herman's point, it's making sure to strike while the iron's hot. So when we're posting early, it is making sure, I know our school leaders have a ton of things going on, but in March, making sure we are hiring as quickly as we can so that those applicants aren't waiting to hear, because that's the busiest time of the year. Some of this too is making sure, as we look at the 596 who applied, how many of those are qualified and meet the needs of our district? Because not all 596 are maybe qualified for the role. And of course, if that's the case, we want to make sure we're getting the data in a way that we know, to your point, like who are the people that we wanted to have that we just didn't convert for some reason.
So are we still going through the data to shift out who were the folks that weren't qualified versus those who were, that didn't cross the finish line, and what we learned from that?
Yeah, I think it's worth doing in part because, especially a good recruitment effort is to then go back to those people who didn't come to us last year or this year and try to get them again.
I'd be curious to learn and understand exactly what their feedback was and how we can and what improvements that we can make with regards to bringing them on board. I have here in my notes, you mentioned something about systemic trainings and a teacher induction program. And I'm curious how much input or collaboration does the union have with this type of training? Because again, I think if the more they're involved in these sort of things, I think it serves the district as well as the union. So I'm curious to hear their involvement, if any, in this particular.
So this year we had Mary Beth come and open and stress the importance of having our educators with us. We did contract with an outside group with TNTP to support us with building the program, and then we have slated to open 10 positions with our educators so that then they can support us with rolling this forward with our new educators in future years. So I think that's really where that our veteran teachers, the PTU members, are going to kind of feed into what we've built as a shell and then build it up so that it is Providence ready and Providence appropriate.
I just have a couple more questions. If we could move on to slide 9. I know we were there with Ms. Garcia. I just had a couple of more questions here. Under the upcoming activities tab, you mentioned that we have folks that are involved in the Rhode Island School Progressive Education Program. What is the timeline for those enrolled in that program to complete? And what is the completion rate for those involved?
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have that. One of our colleagues, Cynthia Ramirez, who leads a lot of our pipeline work, is on that contract, so she's not here, but normally we can get that was on the RISP.
Correct. Yep.
We'll get that for you.
I appreciate it. And my last question for this slide, when you look at the percentage of new teacher hires who are BIPOC, you indicated a dip in BIPOC teachers. And it sounded like the district is confident that that number will rise again. I'm curious if you could speak to the reason for the dip.
Yeah, I think it's actually important to look at first, if we look at the top graph first, right? So that shows the absolute number. And so while the percentage dropped this year slightly, the absolute number actually grew. So, when you're hiring, we hired, part of the reason the percentage dropped is because the overall number of new hires we had was just far, far higher, about 50% higher. But the absolute number of new teachers of color that we hired into the district was higher this year than it was the previous year. So I would caution to call it a dip, because the pool you're tapping into, there's a limited number of people who are out there, and the fact that we were able to bring in actually on an absolute number more, I think is actually a positive development.
I'll just end by saying, Mr. Jamie mentioned the creation of a retention committee. And I think it's a good idea, and I certainly would like to offer my support in any way possible to support this effort. And I can certainly work with you to connect you with folks in the community who I think would be good allies to have on that board as well. And I know there are a number of board members who have deep roots in the community that can also help with that. I think it's a good idea, and I think it can go a long way in retaining our teachers. So I'm glad to see that. That concludes my comments. To open it up to other board members, there were comments. I have some other questions, but I'll send you an email, and we can certainly follow up.
Absolutely.
Are there any additional comments, questions, feedback that members of the board want to provide? All right, there being none, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda would be to adjourn the meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn? Motion's been made by Mr. Escobar. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Mahingabu. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.